You know, they're different, as you know, how the way I teach, especially online, is that I'm trying to continually show you simple building blocks that make the poses possible, and what they trade on, and different skills, instead of like having the skill be whether you can take your leg behind your head. It's like at Mind Body Solutions, we try to break down the things that you need to be able to do that are more at the heart of yoga, and make asana possible regardless of what your body can actually do. And one of them is really simple, and it's not simple at all. Um, and it seems like you can get it in words, but to be able to get better and better at it in practice is actually, it's in every single pose for sure. And it seems so obvious. That's being able to move in multiple directions at once. Okay, so like that is actually a paradox for your mind, because your mind tends to think about only one direction, right? And so to be able to be given, and if you look at how yoga poses work, they're often giving you simultaneously conflicting instructions, right? Because it's from your mind getting confronted with, wait, if I try to do that really hard, I can't do that. Then it makes the mind have to quiet down and let the body, through practice, start to learn how to do it. So multiple directions at once, it's happened in every yoga pose: down to go up, in to go out, you know, all these things. And it's important. It's a skill that is, it's transformative to how you feel in your body. So like in some ways, if you think about what yoga does, is it's just helping you become more aware. What asana does is help you become more aware of different parts of your body, and then asks you to simultaneously coordinate actions into a whole movement, right? And but the idea, like one thing I've talked about before, is being able to move vertically and horizontally at the same time, right? So just for a second, look at your hand, right? And so now imagine this is like a skill, or not just about how to move your hand, but being able to like be quiet enough to not just go really fast. Here's me stretching my hand. Everyone stretch your hands. And when you do it really hard, you do too much action right here, right? And too much action up to the fingers. I know this because for a lot of years, I used to think about working my hands really hard because it made my mind feel like I was working hard. You know what happened? I started to get tendonitis all through my hands because I was literally overworking in the one direction that I felt that I had the most control over, right? Which is being able to make a feeling, spread your hands to really hard again, making a feel of tension, right across through here, right? And that for a long time made me think that must be me doing yoga really well. Well, it turns out that fatigues your elbows, fatigues your forearms. It does a whole bunch of things that are not yogic, right? So now relax your hands, right? And so now look at your palm, and whether your hand can go straight or not, that's not a big deal. But like now, and I've talked about this before, try to, instead of, figure out what it is to attempt, even if your hands are paralyzed, like uh, feel like you're going to move your fingers. So you know how to move your fingers, right? And it's easier to move this top digit, right? Right. And then the whole thing, right? And so you've got this stuff, and maybe one of your hands doesn't work as well because you have some asymmetry, hemiplegia, whatever, right? But now, what does it take for you to like think about and feel the center of your palm, which doesn't give the same kind of feedback? And instead of moving from your fingers, try to move from the center of your palm. So what would that even be? Notice, and I'm not saying move your fingers yet. I'm saying like literally try to like get to the center of your palm and try to initiate the movement out through the fingers, being more aware of right here. And I think, what is this? This is silliness. It's like, no, it's in every yoga pose, at every point in your poses. You're actually trying to learn how to move with more fullness. right? So then release your hands. And so whether your fingers are going out or not, whether you can get them straight, what would it be to move from the center of your palm? So everyone curl your fingers up, because maybe some of you can't open your fingers straight, right? And now from here, try to move from the center of your palm, right? And then those of you that can, try to open from the center of your palm from a center point outward. So I remember one time my yoga teacher was saying, so Matt, are you, and it seems like, why would this matter? And now after years of practice, I know why it matters, but it's not exactly a word thing. She goes, like, when you move up through each finger, are you being aware of each side of your finger? Right? So, and that what that does is it starts to make you feel more of your skin, because there's no way that I can clearly differentiate each side of my finger unless I try to feel the air on each side of my finger. And then from the center of my palm, I try to extend awareness out beyond my fingertips. Right? And then release. And it's like, no, this is, they can go like, what is this? Why are we doing this? It's because it's training your brain to hear more input. Because it's very rare that you're actually trying to do, unless you're in pain, you're very rarely trying to differentiate different parts, different sides of your fingers. Very rarely, right? Except the brain receives that information. You're just not putting it into practice. So now, again, now like I'd be barfing and tell you, like a starburst or a sunburst, move from the start from your, move to the center of your palm, open out through the fingers. And now instead of overdoing it, extend gently and keep working. Don't hit that point of overaction, but keep extending from the center of your palm out, trying to feel both sides of your fingers. And then release. So I hate to tell you this, but the more you practice it, the better you'll get at it. And whatever thing you think now, like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No, I'm telling you, with every bit of truth in me, the more you practice something like that, you're not going to believe what actually starts to reveal. And it's not like, oh, this is going to change your life. It could if you wanted it to. The awareness of being quiet enough and having the patience enough to practice something over and over again, so you can feel more of what's happening, right? That practice translates to every yoga pose. That practice translates to whether you can see beauty well. That practice translates to whether you have patience. That practice translates to whether how tolerant you are. It actually, the softness, instead of doing this, when I'm overextending my hand and it grabs my shoulder and stuff, here's this, gonna be a funny connection. It's harder for me to be compassionate to others. It's harder for me to be empathetic to another person's suffering when I'm overworking. In order for me to be more aware and sensitively aware of the world, I need to be aware without overdoing it. Right? So what seems like a little thing, I would try to quickly connect dots, like it's not a little thing. So now you're opening your hands, and we're gonna try to move in multiple directions. So essentially you got this way and you're going this way. But now if you can, bring your hands together, put the heel of your hands, take time to put your heels of your hands together, right? And now you've got even more input. Now for me, when my hands are together, the center of my palm, the deep center of my palm, becomes even more of a mystery. Like I can't quite feel it the same way. I can feel everything around it. I can feel where these joints are touching. I can feel where my fingers are touching. I can feel where the heel of my hand is touching. I can feel where my thumbs are touching. And then all of a sudden there's kind of a deeper mystery in the center, right? And to access that, I'm going to have to be graceful. I can't go too fast at that. I mean, it's going to help maybe if I soften the inside of my mouth, if I sit at attention, because that place I can't quite feel the same needs to be the source of this movement. So now that place that's in the center, And whether your hands are like this or whatever they are, moving from that place in the center where I don't get to feel as much is going to be part of where my breath is most powerful. Okay, I say things like you breathe for things you can't feel in a yoga pose, for the parts you can't control. So you're sitting here allowing that you don't get to feel the center of your palm the same way, letting it be the source of action, softening the inside of your mouth, staying patient with something that seems like too much, and trusting your teacher a little bit to tell you that this practice matters. Not this one in particular, but taking time to feel more. Good, and then release. People, have you noticed that people in general, and probably me too, and more people than you might think, are kind of afraid to feel? You know, whether that's emotional or feel too much, it makes them feel vulnerable and stuff. It's because they're not comfortable with the part of sensation that's less tangible. We try to make it loud, you know, right? And actually, there's a whole part of your experience and sense potential to sense sensation comes from opening to what you can't feel, to the parts of you, whatever that is, right? That aren't as tangible. And opening to those things, coordinating those unfelt parts of yourself with your breath, right? It's a powerful practice. So we're going to center in a second. And I say a lot about this, like about like opening and allowing, that you open the door, right? What's so great is there's more potential in you than what you control, right? And it's even true in movement. And it's going to be the source of your grace, not just of your failures. Asana teaches you a lot about what you are. All right, so now sit up straight and tall, right? And right away, again, this idea of going in multiple directions, we tell you to feel your sitting bones and the feet on the floor, right? And then start to lift. You've already started to move in multiple directions, right? And so this is going to be a constant in every pose, right? So you're going down, and then you can make it even more, right? By extending from the inner groin to the inner heel, grounding your sitting bones, lifting your lower abdomen up, rising up, but hitting down at the same time. And trying to learn to do this without strain, because we're centering, right? We're coming in. And just for a second, just drop your chest and let yourself fall back. Look at the difference in sensation. It's a big difference in sensation, right? You're kind of more of a big blah when you don't lift your chest, right? So now lean forward again, get more bound. Don't lean against the back of your chair. Find where the feet are, where the sitting bones are. Ground them, lift up, broaden across the shoulders. If you can, bring your hands into prayer. It's like I don't center with my hands in prayer because I fall back, because I don't have the same balance that most of you have. So I usually center with my hands on my lap. So I'm not falling here. And I just have to know that, like, I lose connection when I go up with my hands in prayer, right? So as you're going in multiple directions, gently and gracefully, you're not trying to win or push yet. Soften around the temples, the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Feel the room around you. Feel the stability of you on the inside in relationship to what's around you. There's room for you here. There's room for you in your experience. Let go of your day. Prepare to do yoga and practice simple direction, moving in multiple directions. Good, and then release. Drop your sternum now up towards your chin, and your chin down over your sternum. Remember, this is one of the 3 core energetic patterns. They're called bandhas. You should be practicing this and exploring what it can teach you, how it changes your breath and your sturdiness. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So that kind of inward focus, but already by doing something like feeling where your body is and then trying to feel the whole room around you, that's already moving in multiple directions, right? That's activating more parts of your nervous system, your interoception and your proprioception. You've already started asana when you're doing that, because asana is always going to ask your body to move in multiple directions. That's what it's going to do in every single pose. So before we get so seriously inward, because that can be kind of serious, we're going to do the little kind of warm up, right? Because like it's just like, remember that this is a light practice. So go forward and go back, right? And then forward again. So the intensity of inward focus, if it makes you too serious, you're going straight to hell, right? You'll never practice it, right? Because it's too ominous, right? And so one of the things I've learned after years of doing yoga, if I take my yoga practice too freaking seriously, I end up bugging the crap out of myself and then avoiding it, right? And so then you're going to go over to now we're just trying to like remember the spine is the core of your energy, right? Like your animation. Your brain organizes it, but your spine delivers all the electrical impulses, right? It's actually the distribution center. So you're going back and forth, and then take your arm up and just go over your head. Stretch your side body. So we're just trying to like feel where the body is in space, right? By changing input. So now my skin is lengthening, right? And opening. And by changing, putting more input, right? My brain is beginning to wake up to more parts of my body. Forward, back. We're just trying to get the brain to go, oh yeah, that was part of my radar. I just didn't pay attention to it, right? This morning. And so you're just trying to get it, right? And then again, up and over. And you just feel the stretch here. Like be happy with that, right? And then go the other way and just get it open, right? And now more internally, sit in the center. Of course, you can roll your shoulders, right? Like, so you can just go like do these circles. But so now you can just do it without thinking. Yeah, here, I'm just going to do the circles, right? But now I'm going to start moving in multiple directions with my awareness. I'm going to roll my shoulders, but the whole time I'm going to slightly lift my chest and hit down through my sitting bones. So I'm just not doing this where I'm throwing it away, right? That'd be like pushing your hands like this. I'm going to try to go down and roll my shoulders and feel it more and pay attention to the feeling of my shoulder blade as it moves around the inner shoulder blade. And then I'm going to extend out to the tip of my shoulder as I do this. So I'm starting to ground the inner edge of the shoulder blade, extend it as it drops, and start to feel the whole circular motion the whole time, trying to feel my sitting bones and feet and grounding them. And then do the other side. And it's like, oh, and then for God's sakes, I can't believe how one shoulder feels so different for me, right? So I gotta I'm going this. And so here's me just throwing it away, making it donkey work. Here's me starting to go, wait, I'm gonna do more yoga. I'm gonna ground the inner edge of the shoulder blade, roll the shoulder, lift my chest a little bit, right? And then do it in a rhythm that feels more sensual. that helps me feel my whole body, right? And then I go back to the first side. So instead of just like thinking about grounding, awareness itself, when it's unjudged by the mind, is fundamentally sensational or sensual. It's felt. Movement is felt, right? It's not just perpetrated or acted upon by your mind. So again, I'm going to try to now find a rhythm to this movement, right? Where I'm making it be more, maybe I'm going to move my whole arm now. Because actually that works a little better than just isolating my shoulder. I'm going to move my whole arm and go back. Now take it back a little bit. Take the elbow up behind you. Feel this change here. And then so I'm going to do some circles like this, where I'm actually I'm watching myself go off balance, on balance. I'm figuring out where to put my other hand and all these things to like again, be in multiple directions at once. Now do the other shoulder, right? So like I'm trying to like make the rhythm here and find your own rhythm, be part of the teacher, right? And the difference between the inner edge of the shoulder blade, the tip of the shoulder blade, where my sitting bones are, all these things, right? Good, and then release. So then I want to get more to the outer edges of my body. So I take my hand all the way up, go around, all the way around. Ooh, crack, snapple, and pop. That was like Rice Krispies just happened in my shoulders, right? Right, all the way up, around. Then I'm gonna like feel where I'm back here and feel the stretch here and just pay attention to that as I bring it around. As I feel the snap, crackle, and pop in my shoulders, right? It's like, holy crimes, right? I don't know how I stay together, right? I can't believe what's going on in my shoulder, this shoulder in particular. So I'm going around, but I'm making it aware, right? And then I'm doing the other one. This shoulder doesn't have as much snap, crackle, and pop. Happy about that, right? All the way around. So now, just because the instructions have been so much about the arms, I'm pretty sure that you're probably not as connected to your legs as you could be. So I'm going to take my hands on my knees and introduce the sensation of grounding. So I'm going to push back on my knees to push my femur bone back into my hip socket. So I have the sensation of grounding coming back through my base. And then I'm going to release. Notice when I release, my chest drops. So I'm going to watch that movement of grounding and a lifted spine. And then back. And I want to make this a rhythm. Right? Because rhythm absolutely distributes awareness. Think about what music does. When music is really discordant, it makes you grind your teeth. When music has a rhythm, right, it actually opens you up. So I'm doing that a couple times. And now I'm going to just take up my leg. And if you can, whatever you can do, or maybe you don't have to lift it up, but I want that to go in a circle. You know what? Guess what's tight? My hips, damn it. Right? So I'm finding a way to actually, I'm just going to go up and down a few times, where I'm just trying to like make there be more fluidness and openness, right? In a joint that doesn't get as much movement. And then release and then go. So there are times where this is a great way to start a practice, where you just take some time to get certain parts of your body moving, right? And if you can't lift up your own leg, like, so I'm going to kind of lift my leg and go back and forth without lifting my leg. So I'm like, although I'm paralyzed, so here's what I would do if I couldn't lift my leg, right? Or if you can do it on your own, that's lucky. But I'm going to do it as if I am lifting my leg. So I'm going back and forth. So everyone try it, going back and forth with your torso like you're lifting your legs up. And don't lift your legs up, right? And get the rhythm, right? And so now I'm going to grab each knee and go back and forth. So I'm pushing one knee forward, taking the other one back, mirroring it in my spine, right? So I'm coordinating, moving in multiple directions. I'm pushing against my knees, grounding, extending, and trying to coordinate it with movement in my upper body. Good, and then release. One of the things that the more of me that I get here in my experience, the more resilient and stronger I am. And what's funny is a lot of people try to make less of themselves to get stronger. They try to do this with their hand. And sometimes you need to do this with your hand to get through your life. But in general, your resilience is going to come from more, not less. Right? So put your hands on the table or on your knees. Right? And so we're going to start to extend out through the arms. So here we start, whether your hands are on a table or on your thighs or whatever, right? I want you to start trying to move your arms in two directions, right? So if your hands are on the table, press down with the palms, but draw back the upper arm back towards the shoulder. So you're trying to like, wait, what, I can go in both directions? Yeah, right? You totally can, right? If you don't have your hands on the table, it's just as easy to do it. But this simple action of being able to lengthen, so you're almost trying to like lengthen your arm by pushing in both directions. So I'm going to extend out through my index mound finger, draw back the upper arm, feel my inner edge of each shoulder blade, feel the side body to make the skin move in both directions on your arms, right? The only way that happens is if my latissimus dorsi back here, my side waist starts to work as I extend out through the fingers and through the palms. Good, and then release. So another place that needs to move in multiple directions, which is harder, okay? And I remember the moment that I learned, I saw this I was in a class with a very advanced Iyengar teacher, and he had a student there that had been a student for 17 years. And I don't like how he taught this, but it was an insight that I've never forgotten. It has to do with lifting your chest and combining what we're talking about. There's a really good student there that was standing in Tadasana. Everyone sit up, straight and tall, stretch your arms down, lift on the collarbones, bring the shoulder blades down and forward, hit down through your sitting bones, extend from the inner groin to the inner knee, feel your feet on the floor, Tadasana, okay? So she would, and then release. She was standing in Tadasana, and he came up to her, and it was with a relatively compassionate voice, but it was in front of everyone. That's the part I object to. And she said, how long have you been doing yoga? And she said, 17 years, I think. And he said, and you haven't fully been taught how to lift your chest, right? And it was like, oh my God. And the truth is, I'm still 30 years later learning how to lift my chest with more and more depth. I want you to know that's how much practice there can be. But here's what he did, and I'll never forget this, right? And I teach it all the time. This is like one of those times in a class where it was such a profound thing. He said, take one hand and put it on your rib cage, like right at that solar plexus, on the crest of your rib cage, if you can. And take the other hand and, and put your thumb and a finger down on your collarbone. So you're kind of pushing down, right? And then he said, lift the space between your hands, right? Now, typically, then drop your hands for a second. Typically, when we lift our chest, we're bringing our rib cage forward, right? So you like kind of lift your chest, the rib cage comes forward and it opens. That's not wrong. That's only one of the layers, right? And what he got me to realize in that moment, go again, hand to here, there's an action beyond just projecting your rib cage forward that's very deep in the center of my upper thoracic that needs to lift. If I try to lift the space here, I can't do it from my front body. I have to do it from between my shoulder blades, right? If I'm not going to activate my rib cage and then drop. So this is why I say so much about spreading the shoulder blades and hitting them down and forward. Not just, if everyone just do it wrong, pinch your shoulder blades together, like jerk your shoulders back, right? Notice how this projects this part of your spine out, right? That's not necessarily wrong, as long as it doesn't cover up this more internal piece. And by the way, this multiple directional move is in every single yoga pose. Okay, this part of your chest needs to get way deeper. So again, put your hand here, your hand here. And what would you do to lift the space between your hands? Can you feel how important each edge of your shoulder blades are? Right? And if you squeeze them together, you lose it. So you hit them, you broaden them, take the shoulder blades down, and then from there, lift the center of your chest. Breathe. And then release. I don't know about you, when I work that too hard, I find it very fatiguing. If I do that too long, I kind of lose my breath. That's a sign that it's much more powerful than you think. And it's not as easy as you think. So when you bring your hands down to your sides and do your Tadasana, grounding your sitting bones, your feet, stretching your arms down, lifting the collarbones. Are you lifting? Now try to find that extra movement. Integrate it with your inhalation. Exhale and become a taller mountain. Good, and then release. Let your breath touch more of you rather than less of you. Okay, so this action, so one of the things that is so Gita Iyengar says, the daughter of Bika Iyengar, that who's now passed too, that it's much easier to teach a student to move vertically than horizontally, right? Than across. This was reflected here, right? With the extension of your hand. So it's easy for me to spread my fingers, right? And really engage than it is for me to go, wait, I'm going to try to go both this way and this way with my palm at the same time. And the effect of that makes me more intelligent. It makes me more supple. The same thing is going on in your chest. The tendency is to just go down and up on a vertical plane, and it takes more yoga practice to spread between the shoulder blades, right? So think of your center of your chest now as a metaphor, as connected to what happened with your palms. All right, so now sit up. Move the center, deep center of your chest, both this way and up and down. Soften your jaw, the inside of your mouth. Take a couple of breaths. Good, and then release. So the moving in multiple directions, I've come to believe in the last 10 or 15 years that the center of my chest is a microcosm of the entire pose. That if I do that well, my limbs go differently. And it doesn't matter as much if my limbs can move all the way or not. If I really get good at moving it with multiple directions on the inside of your pose. Okay, so arms down by your sides. So now all asana is to practice. So in order to really get the center of my chest to go in all directions, I better hit through my sitting bones. Right, all those instructions. Now I'm going to stretch down with my arms, broaden across my shoulder blades, but lift the sternum up. More than just take my rib cage up. I'm going to stay inward. Now with this, and hit down through your sitting bones and your feet. Now I'm going to go in multiple directions on a different level. Right? I want you to integrate with the whole room. I want you to be strong in your body and expansive beyond your body. Both. Take a couple of breaths. Now it's going to get, and then release. It's going to get harder when your arms start moving more and your legs start moving more, right? So now take your arms wide. Now right away, I can already tell that this part of my chest dropped, right? So I'm going to try to roll my shoulders underneath, drop my shoulder blades. Now spread from the shoulder blades out through the center of your elbow, out through the center of your wrists, from your shoulder blades, from the inside of your shoulder blades, and then release. The energy of your body is not as constrained by physical space, right? So when I tell you to stretch from the center of your chest through the center of your elbow and out through the wrist, right? Don't make that so physical. Start it here and go outward. So this is why inhalation helps. So everyone put your hands here. So on this next inhalation, you're going to take your arms wide, right? And you're going to like expand and ground your shoulder blades and through your sitting bones at the same time. Inhale, ground and open, work from the center of your chest. Find where the center of your elbow is, the center of your wrist. Keep lifting the sternum, spreading the shoulder blades. Good, and then release. So now, we're gonna do that one more time, but we're gonna coordinate it with breath more. Right? Okay, so I gotta get balanced. I'm gonna inhale and take my arms wide. Your brain has a whole bunch of sensors in your joints, right? So stretch going from the center of your chest out to the center of your elbow, to the center of your wrist. Makes your brain search differently. Now, hit down through your sitting bones. Extend from the inner groin to the inner knee. And take a breath or two. Good, and then release. So if you can come forward on a table, maybe a right table, put your elbows down, right? Like this, hands in prayer. If you're using your own body as your prop, right? Come forward and bring your hands. So my forearms are on my legs and my palms are together to whatever capacity I can. If you can put your palms together, great. If you have to fold your hands, that's great. Okay. But now I want you to press however your hands are. I want you to press, feel grounded, whether it's on the table or on your forearms, right? Feel grounded, but I want you to open the center of your palm and open the center of your chest at the same time. And did you notice when you started to try to do that, you took an inhalation naturally? Yeah. You already know how to breathe with movement. It's wired into you, right? So now you're trying to open the center of your palms, the center of your chest. Feel the inhalation, help you expand. Notice on exhalation, your base gets better, the feeling on your forearms and stuff, on your sitting bones. So you're trying to make the center of your palms, center of your chest, utilizing the inhalation, coming more towards the ground on your exhalation. And now try to make this a rhythm. So your breath starts getting more floaty, supple. Because asana, the poses are going to make you strain. And you're going to lose your center under the strain. And then release. And if you're not losing your center out of some of the strain, you're probably not working hard enough. Right? But when you start to work, even more. So inhale, take your arm up. Press down, your left arm's up, press down to your right foot, your right sitting bone. Take a breath. Lift the sternum, drop the shoulder blade, and then bring it back down. Inhale, take your right arm up, hit down through your left sitting bone and left heel. Activate between the center of your chest. Feel your sitting bones. Breathe, and then come on down. Now, for me, it's going to be more of a strain. I have to go up balance, take both arms up, and try to figure out how to do the same. For me here, it's way harder to lift my chest. Unbelievably harder, right? So I got work to do. So I'm going to not hold my breath here and make myself stay up, but I'm going to be here as long as I can take a decent breath and then back down, right? So you're practicing breath resiliency in situations where the openness of your chest is getting challenged, right? All right, take both arms back up again. So I'm going to try to activate my sideways. Some of you can use your legs, and I can't in the same way. It should be in your legs that help your arms stay up. So if you can grab your wrists over your head, doesn't that make it easier a little bit? So now lift your chest, broaden between your shoulder blades. Hit down through your sitting bones. Press your feet into the ground. Good, and then release. Take your arms down. And again, now we're going to lean over to the right. So this was the nice, just stretching part, right? To keep my arm bent, right? And I'm going to go the other way, right? And as I open this space, feel your legs. Now lift your chest, open it. Good, and then come on back to center. So you're going to get in. Here's just the physical stretch. And then I'm going to try to feel my legs, but then I'm going to try to open here while I'm in the position, adding a layer. Feel what it does to your shoulder blade. Feel what that does to the sense of your base. Breathe. Keep opening the center of the chest in multiple directions. And then come on back to center. And go the other way. Again, here's me just throwing it away. Here's me adding yoga, opening the center of my chest. Right? Revolving open. Making yoga happen. Good, and then come on back to center. So I did it with bent arms, right? So I'm reshifting in my base. In fact, everyone, because you've been lift up your seat, your sitting bones drop, so you're getting lighter again because you probably just crunched down. So we're just undoing some of that. So now instead of, just watch for a second, instead of doing it like this, we're going to do this, but I want you to think about what your advantage you're getting when your arm goes straight, right? Because, so just if you go, just watch for a second. If you open your chest here, one thing happens. When you're like this, it changes. So we're going to go over to the right side, do what you just did. Now straighten the arm as you open the chest. Make sure the center of your chest here is opening. Use that as a way to feel your legs. Press down through your sitting bones and legs. Keep opening. Good, and then come on back to center. Be in the center. Then go the other way. Here's just the throwaway stretch. I start to open and straighten my arm. When I straighten my arm, I can feel my sitting bones better. When I do this, I get more stretch right here. When I do this, I can get my legs better. When I open the center of my chest, everything gets louder. The intensity, everything. Good, and then release. This is a very hard, energetic movement. It takes energy. So sit. So for those of you that can, right, maybe take 1 foot forward off your pedals. So I'm going to put one of my feet on the floor, which is hard, as a paralyzed guy. My legs don't always want to do what I want them to do, right? So I'm going to push down on the foot that's off, that's more forward. So notice how my shoulder goes up. Now I'm going to drop my shoulder. I'm going to try to hit down through both feet, but especially the one that's more forward. Ooh, I better look at that bad habit. Gotta drop my shoulder. So I'm in a slight, I'm forward. I'm in it like I'm about to stand up. Those of you that can stand up, you're damn lucky, right? Feel it as a yoga pose, right? Feel the momentum. Now lift from your sacrum up through your chest, up through your mouth. Take a breath and then release. Take your other foot forward. So by changing leg positions, even in a little way, right? You're trying to make for more the change, more input for your body, right? For your brain, pardon me. So I'm putting one foot off the pedals. It changes my relationship to gravity, right? So I'm pushing my foot down, right? Trying to keep my chest open. Lift from the tailbone up to the center of the chest. Breathe into both sides of my rib cage, but having more connection to my legs. Good, and then release. Take the leg back. Now, take the legs wide a little bit. So I have them off my pedals some. So now I want the center of my chest. So your knees are apart, I hope, to help the energy go out through my knees. Right? So I'm letting this be a microcosm of the pose. Right? So I'm, instead of falling back, I'm coming forward. I'm activating. I'm feeling each sitting bone, whatever you're feeling in each foot. But then I'm starting the activation from the center of my chest and extending out through my knees. It's a good time to breathe. Good, and then release. And now with my legs still wide, I'm going to take my arm back. I've just complicated matters, right? And I can tell you, I just lost in my base as I took my arm up. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to bring my arm back down. I'm going to try to have the center of my chest open and go out through each leg. And as soon as my arm goes up, I want the center of my chest to follow my arm too. So I'm grounding it through my legs. I'm inhaling up. I'm activating from the back side of my spine. I'm bringing it forward, extending it out through my limbs, up through my arms, and then making sure the very center of my chest is a microcosm of all the movement of my limbs. Good, and then release. Be in the center, and of course we're going to do it the other way too. So I'm not going to go over. So I've got this, I'm being very conscious of the movement out through my limbs, right? I want the center of my chest to reach down through my knees to my feet and up with your arm, up through the arms. Good, and then release. Here, I got someone on their end. Okay. So now it's going to be, now I don't think I should do this. Some of you might be able to do this. I might fall out of my chair if I try, but I'm going to try it first to see what happens. Okay, so I was just leaning over and doing it with one arm. Oh, right. But now I want the center of your chest to go out through both limbs and both knees apart. So this I can do. I'm in the center of gravity. So I'm just being big here. But now I want the center of my chest to activate through both my arms and my legs. Take a breath. Couple breaths. Be big in space. Hey, is the center of your palm opening? Are you going through your fingertips? Continue the pose all the way to the outer edges. Is the top of your head in the pose? The center of your chest is reflected everywhere. Good, and then release. You know when they say things, it sounds kind of new age, almost barfy, but what if the heart really was not just the physical heart, because that's a little left. What if this really was the center of everything? And one of the tests of of living is whether if you can keep this open, right? Which means constantly moving from the center outward. So now I'm going to try to lean over. This is where I shouldn't do this, but maybe you can do it, right? And take both arms wide. So I'm not going to go as far because I'm not safe on my bottom arm. So I'm going to put my arm against my wheelchair and take the other arm up. If you can be straight out both ways, do it, right? Like that, but it's not safe for me, right? So I'm like leaning one direction and I'm making the center of my chest go through both my legs and my arms. Shoulder blades in, broaden the space between the shoulder blades, extend out through the legs and the arms, breathe. This is what, and then release. This is what standing poses do, right? They coordinate arm and legs movements with an inward to outward action. So now you're gonna go the other. This way is gonna be even more tricky for me. So I'm gonna think about, well, I can actually do it better. What the hell, there's a surprise, right? I'm more balanced on this side. So I'm trying to go out through my legs, out through my arms, and making this the center of the orbit, making the center of the chest move dynamically out through the limbs and breathing. Take one arm down, I should probably that, right? Beyond the fingertips, beyond where the toes are. Good, and then come on back to center. Bring your legs back on if you're in a wheelchair, back on the foot pedals or just more underneath you, right? So now inhale, take your left arm up. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, take the other arm behind you. And then very gently, let's twist a little bit. Lift under the collarbones, broaden across the chest, keep the space between the shoulder blades. Even though it's getting smaller, you're still trying to spread it. You're feeling your sitting bones in your feet. And you're twisting just a little bit. And then come on back to center. So even though on one layer, when you're in a twist, the shoulder blades come together, the underneath is still working to spread, right? So it turns out that you have different layers of muscular capability between your shoulder blades. So some are farther out, some are closer in. So the ones that are more on the outside edge start to come together. The underside muscles spread along the spinal column, right? So inhale, take your right arm up and exhale, come around. Inhale, take the other arm around. So now, lift under the collarbones, which is a way to tell you to drop your shoulder blades, okay? So you lift under the collarbones and now spread between your shoulder blades and feel your sitting bones. And then inhale, lift up. Exhale, revolve. It's harder to breathe into the center of your chest than it is into your rib cage. So feel the inhalation into your rib cage and bring that right to the center of your chest. Good, and then come on back to center. Be in the center. A little bit of symmetry. So from the center outward, symmetrical awareness helps you find the unknown part of the center. Kind of like bringing your hands together, help you find the center of your palm. So you take a second before you go into Shavasana, using symmetry, using some awareness and some boundary, so the center of you can open. Because if Shavasana is symmetrical, it's going to be more effective. Good, and then release. And then get into whatever you do for Shavasana, right? So lean back against your chair, lean forward on your table, whatever you do. If you're on the floor, be on the floor. Right? Place your hands and get your arms rested. You don't want strain in your arms. Okay, that's not, you don't want that. So you want your arms to be quiet, the inner shoulders to be quiet. This is especially challenging when you're seated. It's easier when you're laying down. Right? So start going in and close your eyes. One time I heard the instruction, let your cheekbones deflate. In other words, let there be spaciousness underneath the skin on your face. Now, when I do that, right away, my teeth, I can let go of my teeth better. My gums. Soften the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Let the world hold you up. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation. Slightly exhalation, longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. If that's too bright, close them again. And then pick your pace, open them up. So that inward part that gets nourished in Shavasana, breathe as with your eyes open. Breathe into that. Part of you that just got supported. Resilience. And I can tell you, for me, one of the things that I love about a yoga practice is that I can see progress. So this is my third class I taught with you all since my surgery. And the first day I taught, I had to go take a nap. Right? Like it was like really tiring. Right? Second class, a little bit better. Third class for me, one of the things that your yoga practice is a touchstone to know where you are and how you're doing. That's part of why you're practicing. It's not just the gains you make. It's actually a way for you to check in and see progress. So that's one of the great gifts of a yoga practice. And things like moving in multiple directions. Today, when you reach up to grab something off the shelf, hit down as you reach up. That moving in multiple directions at once It's in every movement in your life, every single one. You just probably don't coordinate it with breathing, right? All right, everybody, hands together if you can, whatever you can do. Namaste. Spirit in me bows to the spirit in you. So I'll